Welcome back to Southern Miss Motivation.
We do not constitute services. Services. I wonder what that could mean. or advice. And foul language will probably be used. So
Mostly me.
So just if, we're PG.
Yeah.
We're PG-13.
R, X, X.
I don't think it's going to be R today.
No, probably not.
It might be. I don't know. Yeah, just don't let anybody under 21 listen.
Okay, so I'm Bri. This is Dana. Welcome back again. Today, our subject kind of makes me laugh because we, instead of how to flag people's red flags, we're going to flag our own.
So, this episode just going to be Bri talking because I don't have any red flags.
What to do when you don't have your own red flags?
What to do when you're the same one in every relationship you've ever had. And I feel like really you are too, but we're just going to make up stories today.
I mean, it's hard to be perfect.
It is.
It's a tough role to play.
Well, and I want to say that me and Bri were talking about, both of us have dated people who have openly admitted that they had mental health challenges.
That would be after we got involved with them now.
And I seriously think it is a green flag. Because if you admit what your struggle is and are getting help, then I think it's a green flag.
Step up. That's a green flag. You're trying to get help and fix yourself.
You're trying to get the medication or the therapy that you need. And I really do. I think it's a green flag. So this is why we do not constitute services or advice, is because we may not be the best judge.
Probably not so much.
Of anything.
So let's talk about red flags. We've talked about them before in different episodes, but I don't think we've ever addressed our own red flags.
I think they've popped up here and there, but
we've ignored them. We've chosen to ignore them.
So while we ignore red flags in our partners, we also ignore red flags on our own. Because how fun is it to recognize that you have a problem and try to fix it?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it's one of the most fun things you can do.
It's one of those smacks in the face, and there's tons of different things I think that we can choose to ignore about red flags and things that maybe give us the creepy crawlies in other people. And we're not just talking about dating; we're talking about any kind of relationship in that respect.
Yes, absolutely.
Family members, even. But there's most of the time,
because that's where you get your red flags. It's from your family.
It's hereditary,
it's from
exactly.
Your family.
But I think that a lot of times we are quick to ignore other people's red flags, especially if we are hoping for better for that person, or hoping that we're going to see better from that person. So we're quick to say, oh, it's just a thing. Oh, it's just something they're going through. Oh,
they're getting the help they need.
Right. So it's easy to ignore those things. But what about when we start seeing stuff in our own selves?
Well, I think, first of all, really, if you do see it in yourself, I think that's huge. Because I think we work really hard to not believe bad things about ourselves.
And it's hard to accept it. Mm-hmm. It's hard to accept it. So I think,
because it is easier to blame other people.
Yeah.
It's easy to blame other people. And it's easy to... And this shows you how when you see red flags in other people, they don't see it.
Right.
Because, it's easy to say, well, he's just being a jerk because it's 10 o'clock and I texted him at 7. Where's the response? Okay, y'all realize 7, that's 3 hours. Really? If people are working, people are... Oh, I'm really not talking about you. I do that. I do that in the morning once. If Tom's listening, he's going to love this. But it does. It freaks me out because I message him.
We go to the negative side.
And I start thinking, what did I do last night? What did I say?
Did I say something this morning? Yes. We actually had this conversation because I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago, and it was nonstop texting. Well, then, whenever it kind of come out that things weren't going to work with us, and instead of just saying, this is not what I need, or I'm not ready, or whatever, it wasn't so much ghosting that I received. It was more of a backing away
Right.
kind of thing, because they didn't stop immediately. You know what I'm saying? It was like there was a lull. And so I'm going to Dana, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm messaging. We're not even talking hardly at all anymore. And she said, well, what do you mean by not talking at all? And
I was thinking it had been like 2 or 3 days.
I said, well, I messaged him like an hour ago, and he hasn't responded to me. And she called my attention to it. She was like, okay, you're panicking way before you should be panicking.
But then at the same time, you were right, weren't you? So that's why this is tricky, because...
Yes.
So see, again, we do not constitute services or advice.
Again, we're effed up, y'all. I'm not lying.
It is.
And that's our red flag.
It's
That's
a real
our red
thing.
flag.
And it's just, I mean, there's no need to break it down.
No.
Thank you for listening this week.
There's not much else we can say.
But I do think for me, there is, I need validation.
We need reassurance.
And reassurance. And it's okay to need reassurance from your partner, from your friends, from your family. But you can't outsource all.
No. And one of the hardest things I had to hear from somebody one time was, I was talking to this guy, and we got along really, really great. But I was explaining to him, look, I'm not asking you to check in with me every 5 seconds.
Right.
However, you know, a good morning message, or how in the middle of the day, how's your day been, or whatever. I was trying to explain to him, that's reassurance for me. I'm not, it's not that I don't trust you or trust what you're doing or trust that you're at work or whatever. That's some reassurance that, yes, you have thought about me at some point during that day. Now, I'm not trying to sound conceited either. I just need that reassurance. Right. And so I was trying to explain to him, and I basically said to him, I know this sounds crazy and it sounds mental, but I have to have that reassurance and that validation. And he said, it's not my place to do that.
Right.
And that was a smack in my damn face, because I thought, wait a minute. Yes, right. It is. It is your place to do that. But it's really not.
No.
It really is not.
And it is so hard, because we live now with cell phones in our hand all the time. And
so whenever they are saying to you, I didn't have time to respond, right. And you're like, that's bullshit, because I know you were on Facebook 30 minutes ago.
Right, and I know you had to sit down and use the bathroom at least once today.
Right.
But the thing that put that in my brain about the constant, like, reassurance and validation is at one point, it wasn't somebody I was dating, but it was somebody I was very, I guess, emotionally attached to, kind of a pen pal. And I really, it was at a time in my life where I was craving validation so much. And I remember talking to him, and I was like, look, you have to talk to me. Like, I can't.
I think it's the communication.
Like this. Yeah. And he said, Dana, do you talk to your brother every day? And I said, no. And he said, do you text your brother every day? And I said, no. And he said, do you love your brother? And I said, yes. He said, I care about you. I said, and it's the same. And I was like, oh, dang, girl, you're wrong on this. Yeah. And it was a step on my toes pretty big. But that's kind of the point when that happened, and around the same time I was learning about codependency, and I was like, okay, the universe is trying to tell me that this is an issue that because it was coming from different angles, and it was like, okay, I see. Now, does that mean I've got it figured out? And no.
That'd be a no.
Not at all.
Well, so let's tie this over into the red flags thing, because I do think this is a red flag, is basically needing the need to seek validation and reassurance from people constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of falls under that umbrella of maybe you don't realize your own self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to have that reassurance
Right.
and that validation from
Right.
people, that it's our job to do that ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is a self-esteem issue, and I also think attachment styles plays into
Let's
it.
talk about attachment styles. Dana and I are big on attachment styles. Y'all just don't even, if you don't know what attachment styles are, they will F your whole mess up.
Right. Look it up online, but basically, most research shows that there's an anxious attachment style, an avoidant attachment style, and a disorganized attachment style. And so if you're really needy with needing attention, then that could be an anxious attachment style because you're afraid that that attachment is not secure. And then the healthy attachment style, which I don't even mention because I don't know anything.
We don't even know what that is
a secure attachment. And the goal is to have secure attachments with people. I always thought I was anxiously attached. And I thought, I'm just anxious. But the more I've learned about myself, I'm very disorganized because I detach very quickly. And I tell people that I want closeness and I believe that I want closeness, but there is a part of me that
once they do start trying to get close, you step back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I do that with friends. I do that. It's not just romantic relationships.
So why do you think that is? What do you think it is?
Well, for me, and I think this is still something I'm learning about, but for me, I think it still goes back to self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, why do they like me? Like, what is it? What do they want?
But do you think that falls under a trust issue? Like maybe you're in, like subconsciously, maybe you're like, okay, what's their ulterior motive? See, that's where I go.
Mm-hmm.
I automatically go to, they must have something that they need or want from me. Otherwise, they would not be.
But why would you think they need or want something? Why couldn't they just... I mean,
exactly.
So it is kind of like want something. And attachment styles, when you read about it, a lot of it's based on your childhood and it's not saying that parents are bad parents
or that you had a bad childhood or any of that.
It's just and if you are a parent, like, and my parents don't listen, but like I do not blame them for screwing me up, except this much. No. But nobody, like, there's not a manual. You don't get a manual.
Right.
And we all have issues. So, like, if I did have kids, as much as I would try to be the best parent,
they're gonna have
and they're gonna need things that
And again, we're not saying that if you've got kids, they're all gonna be crazy. That's not what we're trying to say.
But I do believe everybody needs therapy, and I believe, everybody's crazy.
Everybody's crazy.
Everybody's crazy.
So
not really.
So would that be considered a red flag?
An attachment style?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think that if you... Okay, so the attachment style may not be the red flag, but somebody not being aware of their...
Yes. Or if you have somebody in your life that maybe is a different attachment style, that may be a red flag to them.
Right.
Like, if I'm an anxious attachment style, which I am,
then you're more likely going to be attracted to
stalkers, crazy people, psychos. Yeah, sign me up.
My brain just like... You may be attracted to other anxious attachers or from avoidant attachers. Because if you're anxious, you're going to want to be with somebody that you kind of feel anxious about being with. So avoidant people are going to make you feel more anxious.
Right.
So you're going to be drawn to that, not intentionally, but I think subconsciously.
Well, and I think if you are attracted to, or family members, again, I don't want to always bring us back to dating or whatever, but like family members, if you have family members that have an anxious attachment style, which means, for instance, let's give an example. Let's say you have a brother or a sister who constantly has to know where you are or what you're doing as a sibling, I'm saying, that's probably an anxious attachment style. And the contact, like they need to be in contact with you all throughout the day just to know you're okay, they're okay, whatever it may be.
And they may be trying to control situations to make things ideal between the two of you.
So those two, if you have a family member who is an anxious attachment style person and you're an anxious attachment style person, then it's probably not a big deal because y'all are needing and craving the same things from each other. Whereas
so somebody who's avoidant, if I'm your sister and I'm more avoidant, then you're
gonna be like, get a damn life. I don't have time to do this all day long. You trying to
latch on to me and get that reassurance from me is gonna push me away, and I'm gonna be like, whoa, you're too much, and I gotta pull away. And then me pulling away is gonna make you come more toward me. The problem though with two anxious attachers is no matter how much I try to validate you, like what you need is probably gonna be different than what I can give you. So, or even it's just not enough still. Like I could call you every 5 minutes and be like, hey, I just make sure you're okay. You were like, well, it's been 3 minutes.
I finally walked to the kitchen.
And it's more complicated than that. And some things you'll read, like there's some differences, and there's even different subcategories that some people use.
Yeah, there's a whole umbrella that all of it falls under. But okay.
But it's really interesting, and it
when you start researching it, you're gonna look and you're gonna be going, oh, it makes sense. And
you will see, like, and again, it's not about parents being bad parents, but it is like how when you were a little baby, how were your parents all over you, like? Or were they more? Was it more confusing? Like, why
did they try to let you be independent, or
Yeah, and it's not bad. It's just it just kind of sets those patterns, and I think we seek out patterns that feel comfortable, even if they're not necessarily comfortable. We may not like the way it makes us feel, but we're used to how it makes us feel. But and one thing about me that I've noticed, going all the way back to when I first had crushes on people, I kind of wonder why I'm saying all this. But I think about, I've always kind of liked but disliked that feeling of somebody crushing on somebody. Where you want them to like you.
You care for them, but it wasn't reciprocated back. So it was kind of like, in your mind, you're thinking, that's kind of heartbreaking.
But at the same time, it's kind of like,
oh, yeah.
There's hope and there's potential because, oh, are they going to look at me today? Or are they going to...
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that could be red flags. So I'm going to just name off some of the red flags that I see in myself.
Okay.
This is just my own personal opinion. And you listen and you see if I miss any or if you think I'm crazy.
I'll probably see the ones that I feel.
So one is definitely anxious attachment style. Which I will say, how do I say this? I'm for the most part independent. I don't require somebody in my life. I would love to have somebody in my life, but I don't require somebody in my life. I can function without somebody. So I don't really want to say that I'm needy.
Right.
Because I don't need somebody.
Right.
So I'm going to say anxiety, the anxious attachment. I'm going to say I'm controlling in one sense.
How, like, help me understand that.
I don't want to say, like, you're going to do what I say. That's not what I mean. Like, I feel like...
But that is what you mean. I feel...
Only in one room. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like that when I say controlling, it's more like I feel like I have to control all aspects of everything.
Oh.
Like I have to be the step up and take care of person.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I can tell you, okay, for example, dating. I have never been on a date with a guy who had the date planned before he picked me up.
Oh.
Ever. because it's always fallen to, where would you like to go? Which is great. Don't get me wrong. But I remember when I first got back out in the dating world, I was talking to this guy, and I said to him, I don't know that I would know how to act if a guy came to my house, picked me up, took me somewhere, and brought me home, and never asked me, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Because I was always the one, I've always been the one that's been like, well, let's go here. Let's go do that. So I don't want to say that it's like I take charge of things, but then on one aspect I kind of do.
So if they did, like, if I were dating you and I said, okay, tonight we're going to go to...
I'm taking you somewhere tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
How would you respond to that?
Well, first off, I would be like, okay, where are we going? And if you said, well, I'm not going to tell you, it's a surprise.
Oh, okay. What if I did tell you? And
it's somewhere that I didn't want to go.
So it has to be.
You see what I'm saying?
But why can't you just go? Like, I'm like, girl, we're going to Olive Garden. And you can be like,
oh, we're going to take you out to, hell yeah, to Olive Garden. But, I mean.
Okay, where's somebody you would be?
Okay, let's say you're dating somebody that is eat up with NASCAR.
Okay.
And he says, okay, you are okay watching NASCAR. It's not a big deal.
Right.
I like NASCAR.
Right.
But now, the most miserable day I've ever had in my life was when I went to the Coca-Cola 600 race in Charlotte.
So you're not doing that again?
I could not do that again for 100 years. And so...
even if I am your dream man or woman, whatever.
It would be hard for me.
And I'm like, I love this. I've never got to go.
It would be very hard for me.
I just want to go this one time.
It would be very hard for me.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so then people step up and they're like, but as long as you're spending time together. No.
That girl's like, I ain't doing it.
No, because I would be miserable the whole entire time. I wouldn't enjoy my time with the person.
Because you're going to be hot.
That would be like me asking a guy to sit and watch nonstop Christmas Hallmark movies with me. I would never do that to somebody in a million years.
What if he would say, I'll go watch Hallmark for a day with you if you'll go to NASCAR today?
Then yes, because I'd be compromising.
Because it's, okay.
Yes.
I see.
So in one sense, yes, I am kind of controlling.
So you're like at this end, and I'm over here at this end. Like, I will go to NASCAR with you and act like I like it.
Like you, Dana loves to hike. If a guy was to call me and say, we're going hiking today on our day, I'd be pissed.
Really?
Yes.
Girl, I'd be all getting like...
yeah, you'd be like, wait.
I'd be like, what? Oh, Lord Jesus, help us.
But see, again... I guess that's where you'd have to communicate, because I would be like, that's not my thing.
Right.
Now, if you want to get in the car and let's go adventure for the day,
right,
I'm all aboard. But don't be dragging me up in the woods. No.
That girl said, you might murder me out there.
And yes, exactly right.
Okay, so what do you think's healthy? Like probably in the middle?
Yes, I agree that I think... compromise. I don't think I'm healthy by no means.
So it is a red flag.
It is a red flag. It's one of my red flags.
I feel like mine's a red flag too. That I'll disagree. You want to go watch an execution? Actually, I would want to go to that. You want? You want to go?
Do you want to go listen to this?
To a chicken slaughter. I wouldn't want to go to a chicken slaughter, but I'd be like, if that's what you want to do, I'll go with you.
Yeah, I think that, see, again, there's a broad spectrum.
But that's not good, because I think it would be healthier if I'd be like, look, chicken slaughtering is not really for me.
Right.
Why don't you go chicken slaughter and
I'll go spend some time with the girls tonight.
I'll go work for PETA today or something.
Or be hiking through the woods. Anyway, so that would be one of my red flags, I think.
Okay.
Also, probably one of mine would be, sometimes I'm going to say I'm a bit much for people.
Your personality? My personality. Like, just always so, like...
Yeah, like I'm...
But are you always this way?
No.
Okay.
But I, for the most part, am. Yes.
Okay.
Like, I've had people say to me, sometimes you're just too positive. I say, I don't believe a person can be too positive. like, I'm more of that instead of person. When somebody calls you and they're like, listen, I've had a shitty day and I just want to, can you just listen to my day? And all they want to do is talk about their day and how bad it was. And I'm the one who's like, but listen, let's look at the bright side of things.
Shut up.
And
yeah, I can see where that would be annoying.
Well, and it can kind of be a red flag to people because it's kind of like,
you're not in reality.
You're fake.
Yeah.
Like people. But
well,
I mean, it could come across fake because people could really say, you're not like that all the time. There's no way. But I'm really not. You see what I'm saying? So that would be one of my red flags. I think another one of my red flags is my self-esteem level is super, super sucky.
Oh, I thought you were going to say super high. That's what me too.
Like, yeah, me too. Super, super sucky.
Super sucky.
Let me think. What's some of yours?
I think self-esteem too. I overshare sometimes.
I totally overshare.
And I think that's a red flag. I
think it depends on what you're talking about.
Well, I think if on the first date you're like, bleh.
Diarrhea of the mouth.
Yeah, I think some things you might need to like.
Well, now I'm going to tell you something I have learned. Is for me, I used to be the world's worst to think that the first time I met somebody, I had to put all my dirty laundry out.
Right.
And then you would never see him again.
Right.
And then I thought, why am I doing that? Why do I do that to myself? Instead of learning that person and learning what that person earns to get to know about me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think for me that's a red flag because I jump in oversharing and then getting too attached.
Too quick.
Yeah, I'm bad at that.
Yes, and that is exactly what happened with the last week guy. When I was talking to him.
The last week guy.
Well, see, I confront. So whenever I noticed that he was acting distant, I said to him, is everything okay? Because you just seem different than you have been the last little bit.
Yeah.
Well, he was quick to tell me, slow down.
Slow your roll.
And I was like, wait, I wasn't rushing. I was basically just saying, are you okay? Because you're just not acting the way you have been. So, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm quick to jump in over my head sometimes. And especially if you do get somebody who does your validating and your reassuring, then you're like, he's still my beating heart. Oh, and overthinking is one of my red flags.
Yeah.
I'm a big overthinker.
Me too.
Pick it to the bone.
Yeah. Me too.
So,
yeah.
But I think that could be kind of also considered a woman thing.
Well, and yeah.
I think women in general overthink.
Like, thinking about the jumping too fast, I think too, they say, whoever they are, that when you're dating, you should date. Like, not just narrow in on one person. But
I can't do that.
I can't either because I start feeling guilty. Like
Same.
I'm like, and like that show where the woman dates all these men and
and then she picks the one she wants.
Oh my gosh! I could never be on that show because I'd be like.
And see, here's the thing.
Maybe I could though, because maybe I could detach and be like.
That would be, and I don't think that's considered really a red flag.
No, I think it's probably a good thing.
Yes.
Now, depending on how far you go.
Well, but everybody does say, they're like, don't keep your options available. Keep your options available. But
baskets in one egg.
First off, I hate keeping options available because I feel guilty.
Right.
Second of all, I get in my head another red flag. I can be jealous. I get started thinking, okay, well, if I'm talking to 10, how many are they talking to?
25.
Exactly. And then I start again overthinking, okay, all this sweet stuff that they're saying to me, how many other people are they saying it to?
Right.
So you see what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know that would be a bad thing because I I'm like you. If I'm talking to one person, and again, this can be a family member, okay? And we will tie that over to a family situation. If I'm talking to that one person, that person's going to have my focus.
Yeah. I am that way.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I don't. Yeah, that's bad.
No, it's not. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Well, I
But
think
that also means that you're not a hoochie mama, too.
Well, I mean, I think the key would be to try to be friends before, and not jump into a relationship.
But now let's just mark that off the list right now, because you know as good as I do. What are you labeled if you do try to stay friends with a bunch of guys? A hoochie mama. What? Even if it's just friends.
Oh.
Let's say a male friend asked me to go out to eat on Friday night.
Right.
Okay, I go. Let's say a different male friend, and again, complete friend, no romantic.
You say he's just a friend.
Saturday, a different one calls and says, "Hey, I'm going to a movie. You want to go to a movie with me?" Sure. Let's go.
Well, but I think it's okay to be labeled a hoochie if you ain't.
Well, but see, that again, that falls back into that whole, you're being labeled a hoochie mama because you're hanging with all these people, and you're not sleeping with any of them. You're not even romantically, maybe not even be attracted to them.
Yeah.
So you just are wanting a companion to hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't even do that nowadays, because that is just a no.
Right.
So anyway.
Well, and with that going all in too fast, I think I see it now in myself more than I used to, since it really happened to me with a guy I dated. Like, just all the praise from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and saying things that you say that you might feel it at the moment, but it's not really.
Listen, girl.
You probably shouldn't be saying it.
Listen, I'm telling you, we do that though.
Yeah, I do.
I remember a conversation I had with this guy, and I had never met this guy face to face in my entire life.
Right.
We met on one of the websites, and he called me one night and was talking, and before we hung up, we wound up talking like 3 hours. And before we wound up hanging up, the dude actually said, "I love you." What'd I say?
I love you, baby.
Love you too. Because I mean, that's just you're like, you know, I think you're wanting it and hoping for it so bad. Yeah. And that when somebody does say it, you're like, oh, I'm jumping on that train wagon. Right. But then you have to stop yourself and think, you know, again, words are words, actions are actions.
Right. And I think it's a red flag, especially when I do it. And I don't do it anymore because I'm not dating people. I mean, but sometimes I do say stuff to Tom hoping for a response back. So, like, if I need validation, and not always, sometimes I genuinely compliment him. But I'll be like, give him a good text with some good, like, thank you for doing this. You're so sweet. Blah, blah, blah. You're so. And then, okay, have a good day. And it's like, oh.
And then you're shot down. It's like he cut your knees off.
Right. But if it was if it was really from my heart, then my response wouldn't have been that. Like, so that's how I know usually that
it's kind of like you're throwing the worm out to see if he bites.
And if he don't. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's not genuine. I mean, that's a red flag. Like, you need to be.
So we've been naming red flags. Here's another one that I thought of just now sitting here was mirroring. I do mirroring horrible. Like, do you know what I'm talking about when I say mirroring? Okay, so if a guy don't call me, I don't call him. If a guy don't text me, I don't text him. Mm-hmm. But I don't do it as I'm going to show him. Mm-hmm. I do it as I do it as I'm going to show him, I guess, in one sense. Kind of a spite thing.
Like a game, yeah.
Because I think, the whole saying, yes, and the whole saying is, if he wanted to talk to you, he would. If he wanted to call you, he would. I don't really believe in that either. Now, you hear that all the time. If he wanted to, he would. If he wanted to call you, he would. If he wanted to take you out, he would. I don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't either.
Because there's been times that I've been really, really eat up with somebody, and I've wanted to literally pick up the phone and call them. and I may be at work, or I may be with my kids, and I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it means I wasn't thinking about them or I didn't want to. It just means maybe something else was going on, and I couldn't at the time. But I
think there's fear. For me, like, one of my red flags is that, like, I have this huge fear of rejection.
Rejection sucks.
And so, like, I might be thinking about you, but if I know there's a chance that you're going to shut me down, or
then you're not going to throw that worm out there.
My worm's going to stay.
That's right. I like my worms right in the nightcrawler bin where they're supposed to stay.
When they safe in the ground is even safer.
Even safer, exactly. So we went over several different of our red flags.
I feel like I've got more, but we should probably stop before I disclose way too much.
So what do we do about these red flags? Not a damn thing. There ain't not one damn thing you can do about your red flags.
That's not true. That is a red.
All right, let's talk about it.
Love it.
The main thing I'm going to say for me is a lot of times.
The girl said that.
A lot of times.
I'm somebody that can deal with that nonsense.
Well, and it is. It does require somebody who either A, is very understanding and patient, or B, they just ignore your ass because they know how you are. And they're just like, yeah, that's just her being her.
So you don't mean totally ignore you. You mean still be like...
Yes, but they just pay no attention to you when you're having one of your
I feel like that's what Tom does to me. Sometimes he's like...
Well, and you know what?
It will pass.
Look, how long have you been with Tom?
It will pass.
How long have you been with Tom?
Almost
3 years in August?
Almost 3 years.
Okay, it's worked. It's worked for him.
Well, but... It has also worked that I'm trying to improve on some things. But yeah, no, I think you have to find out where somebody will be willing to overlook some things.
Yeah, and I guess that's where we have discussed before when to draw a line on that red flag and when not to. Some of the shit that we talk about, our red flags, now we really are being funny, but we're being serious. These are really our real red flags.
Yeah.
And
we may have minimized them to the point.
I mean, there's no wonder that I'm single. I mean, I'm a lot to deal with, and I totally understand. But then I also know somewhere out there in this world, there's going to be a man who is like, honey, you ain't all that.
I can handle that.
I can handle that.
That's what you want. Somebody that's like,
oh,
I can handle
you
this
know,
one.
that anxious attachment style. She checked that list. Oh, wait, she's controlling. Yep, check, got that one.
Everybody likes a controlling, anxious person.
So anyway, I think that in my heart of hearts, there is somebody out there for everybody. I do still believe that.
But don't you think you're trying to improve and work on that?
I do try, yes. I think that what I find for me is I adapt to the person I'm with at the time. Mm-hmm. Like, if he's okay with my anxious attachment style, then my anxious attachment style ain't going no damn where. But if he says to me, I'm a little, he may say, why don't you step back and let me take control of our dates, or let me handle cleaning, or let me handle, taking care of paying a bill for you. Mm-hmm. Instead of stepping up and like, no, I got this, instead of being stubborn and hard-headed and independent, I'm trying to do better about stepping back and letting the man be alpha, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. So see,
I'm working on it.
And the first thing is you got to realize where there's some work that needs to be done.
See? There you go. What is it? The first step is to accepting.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, and just recognize. Before you can accept it, you've got to recognize it.
Yes.
Because I think we spend a lot of time trying not to deal with what we are and who we are.
We spend a lot of time looking for everybody else's red flags and don't look at our own.
And girl, that's how I've learned about a lot of mine is I see them in my friends. No, I'm just kidding.
She really is good about saying to me, you really need to, instead of flying off the handle about this, just let it go. But then she will come in the next day and she'll be like, but my feelings are hurt. And I'm going, but wait, we just talked about this yesterday.
Yes,
and
yes.
So
it is. It's hard because when it's you and you're all in your feels.
yes, you are. You get in your feels, and then that sucks.
So, but no, acknowledging the feels, and then maybe not lashing out or.
Yeah, not lashing out. And I liked what you said about you're an oversharer. I'm an oversharer, but see, mine is more.
I know what you're trying to say. I'm gonna sip my water.
Okay, mine is probably, I am pretty open about sexual things. Like, not, like I like it. Like, I've had people come to me and say, hey, I've noticed that me and my husband aren't as into each other as we were. Do you have any ideas?
And Bri be like, yeah, let me come over and meet your husband.
Because I do believe, I don't think sex is something to be ashamed of by no means. Now, I will talk it, but I also don't just open it up and say, well, let me tell you about what happened last night. I don't do that too much either.
Oh.
Sometimes I do.
No, I mean,
I filter it.
Yeah, I mean, you're respectful. Like, you keep things. Well, some people might disagree, but I think you keep like, you don't come in and tell everybody like, you're not gonna believe what I did.
Yeah, no.
And you don't kiss and tell.
No.
Like,
but I mean, I do like it. I like that people feel comfortable enough that if they're having issues with that with their partner, that they can come to me and say, what do you think I should do? Or do you have any ideas? Because that has happened several times for me, actually. People come to me. Now, I may not be having any sex, but I can sure tell you how to get some. The end. All right, guys. So, that was a couple of mine and Dana's red flags. And so,
pray for us.
Yeah, we're not perfect, and we don't proclaim to be, thank God.
So, yeah, as you listen to this and you hear us talk about relationships, just like through the filter of, wow, they're messed up too.
Then it's okay to be okay. It's okay to not be okay.
It is, and we can aspire for other things, greatness.
Yeah, and you know what? We are okay being the ones that step up and say it.
Oh, one of my red flags is I don't smile.
All right, guys. We hope this has helped a little bit. We never did talk about how to fix your red flags, but number one is accepting that you have red flags.
Yeah, and then you can find
understand that it's okay that you're not perfect, because nobody needs to be. That would be a boring world, a very boring world. And so maybe start a list. Journaling.
Every episode we're going to say the word journaling.
Because we are big journalers.
Because we have stock in journaling companies.
But I do believe in making lists, and I do believe sometimes putting it on paper is visual for us. And when you see overthinker, anxious attachment style, when you start seeing that stuff on paper about yourself, then you start like, okay, so here's what I need to work on.
Yeah.
Because it's out on paper. So maybe make a list, and don't sit there and try to act like you're all perfect, because nobody is. And if you're in doubt of what your red flags are, get you a Dana.
I don't really call out your red flags.
But I love it when you do. When you do, you have, you've caught my attention to stuff.
Recently, I have.
Yes, but I love it because I need that. And make sure it's a brutally honest friend, because don't get with those friends and say, what would you say my red flags are? And they're like, honey, I wouldn't change a thing about you. That's what your mama's going to tell you.
Who's mama?
Not my mama. My mama be like, honey, say.
I always knew you'd ask. Here's the list.
Let me make your tape recording so you can listen to it.
Here's the scroll of...
Yes.
No.
So find you a good friend that you trust, and somebody that's going to be honest with you, a brutally honest person. And say, if I were to ask you some of my red flags, what would you consider some of my red flags? That always helps. And sometimes hearing somebody else say it.
Well, and seeing it in other people helps you too.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
you might just get really mad at somebody, like, why do they keep doing that? And
Yes.
you'd be like, maybe that's something I need to work on.
Yes. So that's a few things that we were going to talk about our red flags and some things to maybe kick off how to work on your own red flags.
And just a reason to laugh.
And laugh and cut up. If you can't laugh at yourself, who are you going to laugh at? Because we laugh at ourselves daily.
We do.
We have to, or we'd be crying.
And we do that too.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week for Southern Miss Motivation.
Bye, guys.